Rain fell in fine mist over the sleepy little town of Bellevue, casting a silver sheen over the sidewalks and storefronts. Umbrellas bobbed through the morning traffic, and the scent of wet pavement mingled with fresh coffee and rising tension. Aria. Sullivan had never intended to be here. Not at the front steps of the imposing Greystone Manor, not dressed in her sister's nanny uniform, and definitely not about to knock on the door of the mysterious single father her sister Lily had described as aloof, intimidating, and too handsome for his own good. But life had a strange sense of humor. "It's just one day," Lily had begged that morning, her voice hoarse with the flu and her face buried in tissues. "Just make sure Ava eats lunch, doesn't draw on the walls, and maybe read something that isn't about dragons blowing things up." "One day," Aria had echoed, brushing back her wild curls as she'd looked in the mirror, her sister's navy sweater swallowing her petite frame. No problem, but that was 2 hours ago, and as she stood in front of the mansion's massive double doors, heart hammering in her chest, Aria had the distinct feeling that today was going to be anything but no problem. She took a breath, raised her hand, and knocked. The door opened almost instantly, as if someone had been waiting on the other side. A tall man with tousled dark hair and stormy gray eyes stood in the threshold. He was dressed casually in a black sweater and slacks, but he carried himself with the quiet authority of someone who controlled entire boardrooms. Aria blinked. He was striking, far too attractive to be real. "You're not Lily," he said, voice smooth and low. Aria straightened. No. I'm Aria, her sister. Lily's really sick, and she asked me to fill in for the day. Just today." He studied her for a moment. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes, those sharp, calculating eyes, missed nothing. Then, with a nod that barely qualified as permission, he stepped aside. "Come in." The interior of the house was nothing like Aria expected. It wasn't cold and sterile like a millionaire's mansion from the movies. Instead, it was warm, with shelves of books lining the walls, soft throw blankets on the couch, and children's artwork framed and hung with pride. "Daddy, who's that?" A small voice chirped from the stairs. Aria looked up and saw a little girl, no more than 5, peering at her with wide, hazel eyes and a cautious smile. Her curly brown hair was tied in 2 bouncing pigtails, and she clutched a plush dinosaur to her chest. "That's Aria," the man said. "She's here for Lily today." The girl's eyes lit up. "Like a substitute nanny. Cool. Do you know how to make pancakes with whipped cream faces?" Aria laughed, her nerves softening a little. "I'm a pro at whipped cream faces. You must be Ava." "Yep." The girl raced down the stairs and threw herself into Aria's arms without hesitation. "I like you already." The man's gaze lingered on them, silent but not unkind. Then he checked his watch. "I have a meeting. Ava knows her schedule. If there's anything urgent, I'll figure it out." Aria cut in, more confident now. "We'll be fine." He paused, gave her a slight nod, and disappeared down a hallway. Aria felt her breath escape in a rush. "Well," she whispered, to Ava, "let's go make those pancake faces." 2 hours later, Aria was on the floor in the living room, building a pillow fort the size of a small country, while Ava gave orders like a miniature general. No, that one goes there. Otherwise, the secret dragon tunnel doesn't work." "You're right," Aria said, moving the pillow. "How could I not know that?" Ava giggled, twirling in her princess cape. "Lily never makes dragon tunnels. She just says, 'Let's read quietly.'" Aria smiled. "Well, I'm not Lily, and that was the truth." Where her sister was organized, quiet, and responsible, Aria was creative, impulsive, and had a tendency to leap before looking, which probably explained how she'd ended up here, watching a millionaire's daughter with whipped cream on her cheek and a dragon puppet on her hand. She was laughing with Ava when she noticed something strange. The faintest shift behind the half-closed hallway door. It was the same hallway the man, what was his name anyway, had gone down earlier. She could have sworn he was supposed to be in a meeting, but when she stood up and peeked down the corridor, no one was there. Weird, shrugging it off. Arya turned back to Ava and spent the rest of the morning immersed in an imaginary kingdom where pancakes were currency and dragons liked tea parties. It wasn't until lunch that she saw him again. He entered the kitchen silently, but Arya felt his presence the moment he stepped into the room. She was at the counter cutting fruit, while Ava colored dinosaurs with a crayon clutched in each hand. "You handled her well," he said. Arya turned, startled. "Oh, thanks, she's great, creative, funny, smart." He studied her again like he was searching for something behind her eyes. "I'm Nathaniel Drake, by the way. Nathaniel Drake." The name hit her like a bolt of lightning. The Nathaniel Drake, founder of Drake Technologies, a tech mogul, a philanthropist. A man who made Forbes' top 30 under 30 list and had vanished from the public eye after his wife's death 3 years ago. He raised an eyebrow. "Yes," Arya swallowed. "Okay. Wow. I didn't realize." Lily didn't. "Mention—" "I asked her not to," Nathaniel said calmly. "I wanted Ava to have normalcy." That made sense. She nodded slowly. "But it's interesting," he added, voice low, "that you didn't run screaming when you found out." Arya laughed despite herself. "Would you prefer I had?" "No, I like people who don't get distracted by titles." There was something in his voice, something that made her heart skip a beat. But she pushed it aside. "It's just one day," she reminded him, and herself. He said nothing, but the corner of his mouth lifted slightly, like he knew something she didn't. That night, when Lily texted Arya to say she still felt like death and asked if she could cover just one more day, Arya hesitated for all of 5 seconds. Then she looked at the little girl curled up in her dragon fort, and the man who watched her with eyes that saw more than he let on. "Sure," she texted back. "What's one more day?" But she had no idea that one day was the beginning of everything. Arya didn't know why she was nervous the next morning. Maybe it was the fact that she'd spent half the night dreaming about a certain brooding billionaire with slate-gray eyes and an unreadable smile. Or maybe it was the text from Lily that read, "Still dying." Godspeed, sister. She wasn't used to being around kids for long stretches of time, or men like Nathaniel Drake, especially men like him. Greystone Manor loomed in the distance as she parked her beat-up Corolla on the gravel drive again, feeling oddly out of place. Her car looked like it had time-traveled from another socio-economic dimension compared to the sleek black Tesla parked at the side. But when Ava threw open the front door before Arya even knocked, squealing, "Arya, you came back!" all her nerves dissolved like sugar in coffee. "Of course I did," Arya grinned, scooping her up in a spin. "How could I resist a dragon queen in distress?" Ava's delighted laugh echoed through the marble entryway, bouncing off the high ceilings and polished floors. From the second-floor landing, Nathaniel watched silently. He was already in a crisp navy suit, a Bluetooth earpiece tucked into his ear, phone in hand. He looked like the embodiment of power, cold, efficient, untouchable. And yet, something flickered in his eyes as he watched Arya with his daughter. Softness, something protective. He ended his call. "Good morning." Arya glanced up, breath catching for a second before she quickly masked it with a smile. "Morning." "Same rules as yesterday," he said, already halfway down the hall. "Ava's schedule is on the fridge. Call only if there's blood, fire, or an actual dragon." Arya laughed, but he was gone before the sound finished echoing. By mid-morning, Arya and Ava were ankle-deep in glitter, pipe cleaners, and glue sticks. Their mission? To build an enchanted forest inside the living room using only recycled boxes, art supplies, and imagination. "You're really fun," Ava said with a mouthful of goldfish crackers. "Lily's okay, but she's kind of boring." Arya mock-gasped. "Boring? My sister? I'll have to tell her you said that." "She won't mind," Ava shrugged. "You're more fun and you know about unicorn spies." Arya smirked. "That's because I am one." Ava's eyes went wide. "No way. Totally. Codename Rainbow Dagger." Ava squealed with glee. And somewhere down the hall, behind another one of his ever-so-conveniently closed office doors, Nathaniel listened again, He wasn't sure why he kept his meetings in the room just beside the playroom instead of his actual office upstairs. Maybe it was for proximity, maybe it was convenience, or maybe it was something else. Because for the first time in 3 years, the house didn't feel quiet anymore. It felt alive. Lunch came and went in a mess of grilled cheese sandwiches, dinosaur-shaped cucumber slices, and Ava's very official ruling that ketchup was a soup, actually. Arya had just finished wiping the counter when Nathaniel appeared in the kitchen. "Can I speak with you a moment?" he asked. Her hands froze mid-swipe. Sure?" He nodded toward the study. She followed him in, her heart tapping nervously against her ribs. The study was a work of art. Sleek mahogany bookshelves, a fireplace with a marble mantel, leather chairs positioned just so. It was the kind of room where deals worth millions were struck with a handshake. Arya felt like an imposter in her oversized cardigan and flour-dusted leggings. Nathaniel motioned to a chair. "Sit." She did. He sat across from her, resting his elbows on his knees, fingers steepled. "I looked you up." She blinked. What?" "I do background checks on anyone who spends time with Ava, even temporary nannies." Arya's spine stiffened. "Okay. You were valedictorian in high school, art scholarship to Emerson, interned at 3 design firms before quitting your senior year." She swallowed. "Yeah, that's all true. You never finished your degree. Your mother died around that time. Your father bailed shortly after. You took care of Lily, got a job at the bookstore, gave up art." Her mouth went dry. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because it says a lot about the kind of person you are." Arya's voice sharpened. "I don't need your approval, Mr. Drake." "Good," he said. "Because that wasn't approval, that was respect." She blinked. Nathaniel leaned back, eyes thoughtful. "You gave up everything to keep your sister's life on track. You didn't even flinch when Ava drew on the walls yesterday. You just laughed and painted next to her. I didn't think you were watching." "I always watch," he said quietly. Something about the way he said it made her stomach flutter. Then, just as quickly, he stood. "I have another meeting, but I wanted to say thank you. Ava hasn't laughed like this in a long time." Arya opened her mouth to reply, but he was already gone again. That night, Arya lay in bed thinking about him, about how intense he was, how he looked at her like he was trying to read her soul, how he never smiled, and yet somehow still softened when Ava, or she, was near. She didn't want to admit it, but she was intrigued, maybe even a little drawn. The next day, Lily texted again, still a mess, coughing up something green. "Want to tag in one more time? I owe you my soul." Arya stared at the message, then glanced at the tiny glitter dragon Ava had made for her, still tucked in her jacket pocket, and thought about the way Nathaniel had said, "I always watch." Her fingers hovered over the screen before she typed, "Yeah, I'll cover one more." But even as she sent it, she knew she wasn't doing it just for Lily. It was the 4th day now. Arya hadn't meant for this to stretch into a week, and she definitely hadn't meant for her heart to get involved in ways she didn't understand. Every morning she told herself it was just until Lily got better. Every night she drove home with Ava's laugh still ringing in her ears, and Nathaniel's unreadable gaze etched into her memory. He wasn't just a single father. He was a mystery wrapped in cashmere and silence, orbiting around his daughter like a lonely moon tethered by invisible guilt. Arya had seen grief before. She'd worn it for years after losing her mother. But whatever Nathaniel Drake carried, inside him was different. He didn't just grieve, he guarded, with iron. And she couldn't help but wonder, what was he protecting? "Can we go to the garden today?" Ava asked on that 4th morning, her crayon hovering mid-color as she stared up at Arya hopefully. "The garden?" Arya tilted her head. "I didn't know there was one." Ava nodded vigorously. "Way out back. But Daddy says it's only for special days." "What makes a day special?" Ava scrunched her face in thought. "I don't know. He just says, 'Not today, honey.'" She looked up, voice hopeful. "But maybe he'd say yes if you asked?" Arya hesitated. Every day she was here, it felt like she was brushing up against the edge of some invisible line. A line Nathaniel didn't want crossed. But Ava's eyes were so wide, so filled with innocent longing. How could she say no? She waited until lunch when Nathaniel stepped into the kitchen to grab a coffee refill. He looked tired today, more than usual. His sleeves were rolled up, his tie gone, and there was a faint bruise-like shadow beneath his eyes. "Mr. Drake," she asked carefully. He glanced up. "Nathaniel, please." "Right. Nathaniel." She cleared her throat. "Ava was wondering if we could visit the garden today." His body tensed. The change was subtle, just a slight stiffening of his shoulders, a stilling of his hand as he reached for the mug. But Arya noticed it. She noticed everything when it came to him now. She said it's usually off limits. Nathaniel didn't look at her. "It is. Is there a reason?" He took a slow sip of coffee. "It belonged to my wife. She designed it." Arya's breath caught. Oh. There was silence. "I understand," she said softly. But before she could step back, he said quietly, "Ava misses it. And maybe it's time." The garden wasn't what Arya expected. She thought it might be elegant, minimalist, sculpted to perfection, like the rest of the house. But it wasn't. It was wild, alive, overflowing. Roses bloomed in chaotic clusters beside lavender hedges. Jasmine vines climbed up trellises like they had a mind of their own. There were stepping stones shaped like moons and suns, and a koi pond that glistened beneath a weeping willow. Ava sprinted down the path with a gleeful cry. "It's still here." Arya followed slowly, drinking it all in. This wasn't a garden, it was a sanctuary. She was an artist, Nathaniel said behind her. Not in the way the world sees, maybe, but with this, she created something no one else could. Arya turned. He was standing just inside the gate, his eyes distant. "I haven't been out here since the funeral." Arya stepped closer. "It's beautiful." "She must have been amazing." "She was," he said simply. And then after a moment, "You remind me of her." The words landed like a shock. Arya's breath caught. What?" She had that same fire, that same way of not fitting into boxes. She didn't care about appearances, or rules, or what anyone thought. He looked at her now, fully, no shadows, no masks. "She would have liked you." Arya didn't know what to say. So instead she reached down, plucked a wild daisy from the path and tucked it behind Ava's ear as the little girl ran by, and Nathaniel smiled. Not a smirk, not a twitch of the mouth, a real, full, aching smile, and it changed everything. That night, Arya sat in her car for 20 whole minutes before driving away. She stared up at the manor, at the lights glowing warmly from the windows. She imagined Ava inside, brushing her teeth, clutching her stuffed dinosaur. She imagined Nathaniel pouring a glass of something strong and standing alone at the window, watching the moon like he always did. She felt it. The pull. This wasn't just one more day anymore. This was something else. Lily finally called. The next morning, her voice was stronger, no longer wrecked by congestion and coughs. "Good news, I'm human again," she chirped. "Ready to go back to work tomorrow." Arya stared at the phone. "Oh," she said, voice caught between relief and something else. "That's good." Lily paused. "You okay?" "Yeah. I think Ava likes me. She adores you. Mr. Tall, Dark, and Unavailable hasn't complained once. That's practically a standing ovation." Arya laughed softly. "He's not as closed off as he seems." "Oh no." Lily's voice dropped. "Arya, tell me you didn't." "I didn't," Arya said quickly, then added, "Not really." Beat of silence. Then Lily sighed. "Be careful, okay? Guys like him, they don't play around. They're not part of our world." "I know. Just don't fall. Not all the way." Arya didn't respond. Because somewhere deep down, she knew it was already too late. That afternoon, Arya found herself wandering into the West Wing while Ava napped. She didn't mean to snoop, but the door was slightly ajar and curiosity had always been her fatal flaw. It was a music room, dusty and untouched. A grand piano sat beneath a chandelier like a sleeping beast. Sheet music lay scattered on the floor, faded with time. She stepped closer and saw a photograph on the mantel. Nathaniel and a woman with auburn hair and fierce green eyes. She was laughing mid-motion, caught in a moment of pure joy. Arya smiled softly, then froze when she heard the door creak behind her. Nathaniel stood there, hands in his pockets. "She used to play every morning," he said quietly. "That's how Ava learned to fall asleep, to the sound of her mother's music." Arya turned. She must have been incredible. She was, and losing her shattered everything. He stepped into the room, his gaze moving from the piano to the old records stacked in a corner. "I stopped letting people in after that. For Ava. For myself. It was easier." Arya's voice trembled. "And now?" His eyes found hers. "Now I don't know what's easier anymore." They stood in silence, and then he said almost in a whisper, "You weren't supposed to be here." "I know. But I'm glad you are." Arya's breath hitched, because something shifted. In that moment, something unspoken, fragile, and terrifying. A crack in the armor, a spark in the cold, and she didn't know what it meant yet, only that whatever came next, she wasn't walking away. Not now, not anymore. The following morning, the sky was restless. Thunderclouds hovered over Greystone Manor like bruises in the sky, casting long shadows over the gardens and marble columns. The forecast warned of rain, but the real storm was already brewing inside. Arya's chest. It was Lily's first day back. She'd arrived in an Uber promptly at 8, bright-eyed and dressed in her professional nanny best. Sleek ponytail, crisp blouse, clipboard in hand. She looked the part, sounded the part. But Arya knew without a doubt that something had changed since the last time she'd seen her sister in this driveway, because she had changed. "You don't have to come in," Lily said gently. "I've got it." Arya forced a smile. No, I just wanted to say goodbye to Ava." Lily tilted her head. "You sure that's all you're saying goodbye to?" Arya glanced toward the front door, her voice softened. "No." Ava clung to Arya like ivy. "Don't go," she whispered into her shoulder, her tiny arms wrapped tightly around Arya's neck. "I have to," Arya said, stroking her hair. "But you're going to have so much fun with Lily again." "But she doesn't know about the unicorn spies," Ava sniffled. "I'll write her a guide," Arya promised, smiling through the lump in her throat. Nathaniel entered just as she was putting Ava down. He looked tired, hollowed out, like a man who'd been carrying too much for too long and was only now realizing it. Their eyes met. Neither spoke. But something passed between them, a flicker of unfinished conversations and what-if silences. "I'll walk you." "Out," he said. They stepped onto the porch together, the wind tugging at Arya's hair. The scent of rain hung thick in the air, and the clouds were darker now, heavy with impending release. "Thank you," he said after a pause. "For everything you did this week," Arya nodded. "She's an amazing kid." "She is. You've done a great job raising her." Nathaniel exhaled sharply. "Some days, I don't know if I'm doing anything right." "You are," Arya said firmly. He looked at her then, really looked, and she could feel his defenses faltering again. "You're leaving," he said. She nodded. "Lily's back." "That's not what I asked." Her breath caught. "What do you want me to say?" "I don't know," he admitted. "I haven't known anything since the day you walked through that door." And then quietly he added, "I'm not ready for this to be over." Lightning cracked in the distance. Arya swallowed. "Neither am I." That night, the storm finally broke. Rain lashed against her bedroom window as Arya sat curled up on her bed, phone in hand, staring at the empty screen. She wanted to text him. Just one message. A thank you, maybe, or something braver. But her fingers trembled too much to type. Because this wasn't just a crush anymore. This wasn't harmless. It was something real, something dangerous, and maybe something worth the risk. The next day, she woke up to a message from Lily. Lily, Ava cried for an hour this morning. She misses you like crazy. Even drew you a picture of you riding a T-Rex wearing a crown. Iconic, Aria smiled even as her heart twisted. Then a second message came through. Lily. Also, Nathaniel asked if he could speak with you. Just you. Today. After 4. Should I give him your number? Aria stared at the screen. Her heart said yes before her fingers even moved. By 4:15 p.m., Aria stood at the edge of Greystone's back garden, her cardigan soaked from light drizzle and her boots muddy from the walk. Nathaniel waited for her. Beneath the willow tree, he looked like he hadn't slept. "Thanks for coming," he said as she approached. "I almost didn't," she admitted. "I wouldn't have blamed you." They stood facing each other, the willow branches swaying gently around them like nature was eavesdropping. "I didn't plan any of this," he said. "When you showed up in Lily's place, I thought you'd be another stranger passing through. But then Ava lit up like I hadn't seen in years, and I started looking forward to the sound of your laugh in the kitchen, the way you talked to her like she's more than just a kid, the way you made this house feel warm again." He stepped closer. "I've been frozen since Marissa died. Every day I ran my life like a machine, protecting Ava, protecting myself. But you, Aria, you woke something up in me I thought I'd buried for good." Aria's voice was barely a whisper. "I don't know what to do with this." "Neither do I," he said. "But I know I don't want to let you walk away." Tears stung at the corners of her eyes. "I'm not like you. I'm not from your world. I drive a 15-year-old car and live in a 1-bedroom apartment I share with 2 plants and a cat who hates me. I don't care about any of that. I'm not perfect. I'm not looking for perfect." She shook her head. "This can't be real. It's too fast, too impossible." He reached out, took her hand gently. "Maybe, but everything, worth it usually is." For a moment, neither of them moved, and then the storm in her finally gave way. She stepped forward and kissed him. Not a soft, hesitant kiss, but one born of days of silence, weeks of stolen glances, and months, years, of waiting for something that made her feel alive again. His arms wrapped around her, grounding her, steadying her. When they finally pulled apart, breathless, Nathaniel smiled, really smiled, for the second time she'd ever seen. "You realize Ava's going to plan the wedding by Monday," he teased. Aria laughed through her tears. "As long as it includes unicorns and dinosaur crowns, I'm in." He pulled her close again. "God, I've missed this. I've missed feeling." "You're allowed to feel," she whispered. And for the first time in 3 years, Nathaniel Drake believed it. The kiss changed everything, and yet in the days that followed, life inside Greystone Manor went on almost as usual. Almost. Aria still came over in the late afternoons to see Ava, now with Lily's full blessing. They painted unicorns, baked cookies that collapsed into sweet, sugary puddles, and played pretend with dinosaurs who wore detective hats and carried tiny magnifying glasses. But underneath it all was something new. Current thrumming beneath each passing look. A charged silence between Aria and Nathaniel whenever they passed too close in the hallway or lingered at the bottom of the stairs after Ava had gone to bed. There was no official declaration. No "are we dating" conversation. Just a shared understanding. A fragile beginning. It was exciting, terrifying, beautiful, and deeply, deeply private. At least it was, until someone opened the wrong door. It happened on a Tuesday. Aria had just finished helping Ava put together a storybook collage using clippings from magazines and old greeting cards. Nathaniel had joined them halfway through and ended up on the floor beside them. Ava curled into his side, glue stick in hand, giggling at his awful attempt at cutting hearts. "Yours looks like a sad potato," Aria teased. Nathaniel raised an eyebrow. "It's abstract art," she laughed, then caught the soft look in his eyes as he watched her. The kind of look that could melt the frost off any heart, if it didn't terrify her first. Later that night, as she was leaving, he followed her out to the driveway. "Dinner tomorrow?" he asked casually, one hand buried in his coat pocket. "Just us." Arya blinked. "A real date?" "Well, I was going to say a private tasting menu curated by a Michelin star chef who owes me a favor. But yes, a real date." She grinned. "That sounds dangerously close to trying too hard. And yet you're still smiling." She was. She couldn't stop. "I'd love that." The next morning, her phone exploded. She was brushing her teeth when Lily stormed into her room, waving her phone like it was on fire. "You need to see this." The screen was open to a gossip website. Billionaire widower Nathaniel Drake spotted, cozying up to mystery woman at Greystone Manor. Is this the new Nanny romance we've been waiting for? Below the headline was a blurry zoomed-in photo clearly taken from outside the estate walls, of Arya, kneeling on the floor with Ava on her lap, while Nathaniel leaned over her shoulder, laughing. The intimacy was unmistakable. "What the hell?" Arya whispered, her heart plummeting. "I don't know how they got it," Lily said, "but it's everywhere. Social media, celebrity gossip sites, even a mention on morning TV." Arya scrolled and found hundreds of comments. Some were benign. "Aw, that's sweet. Ava deserves a mother figure." Others were brutal. "She's clearly gold-digging. Can you say opportunist? Must be nice to seduce your way out of babysitting jobs." Her hands went cold. Lily reached for her. "Hey, Arya, breathe." "I didn't sign up for this," she whispered. "I know. I didn't ask for any of this. I know." By noon, her phone had 10 missed calls from unknown numbers. By 3, a local reporter was standing outside her apartment building asking neighbors questions. By 4, someone had found her old college blog, a personal post she'd written 3 years ago about grief and healing, twisted into a clickbait headline: "Tragic girl next door captures reclusive billionaire's heart, a Cinderella rewrite." And just like that, her quiet world shattered. Nathaniel called just after sunset. "I'm so sorry," he said before she could speak. "I didn't want this." "How did it happen?" she asked, voice hollow. "I don't know. A drone, maybe? Or a long-range lens. My PR team's working on it." "PR team?" she echoed. "I'm not a scandal, Nathaniel. I'm a person. I know that. I told them not to spin it." "You shouldn't have to spin anything," her voice cracked. "We were just living." There was a long silence. Then he said quietly, "Maybe we weren't as invisible as we thought." She sat down on the edge of her bed, her head spinning. "This is your life, huh? Constant scrutiny. Headlines, cameras outside your gates. It's our life now if you want it." She froze. "Arya, I care about you," he said. "And I'm not going to let a bunch of vultures drive you away." "I'm not scared of them," she whispered. "I'm scared of what this means, what it costs, and what does it cost. My peace, my privacy, my identity." He didn't argue, didn't try to convince her. He just said, "Then let me protect you, in whatever way you'll let me." The following days were chaos. Lily took a temporary leave to keep the media from using Ava for more stories. Nathaniel's legal team filed a cease and desist against the tabloid that published the drone photo. But once the news was out, there was no stuffing it back in. Still, amidst the mess, Arya found unexpected moments of clarity. Ava drew her another picture, this time of Arya as a superhero with a cape that read "The Brave Babysitter." Nathaniel canceled his business trips and made breakfast for Ava every morning himself. They burnt the toast. Every time, and one night Arya woke to find her inbox flooded with messages, from strangers, from women she didn't know. "Thank you for showing it's okay to love again. Ignore the trolls. You're making someone's world brighter. Single mom here. You've given me hope." And slowly, piece by piece, she began to understand something. Her life had changed, but maybe that wasn't a bad thing. A week later, Nathaniel knocked on her door. He wasn't wearing a suit, just jeans and a sweater, a small bouquet of wildflowers in one hand and a brown paper bag in the other. "Dinner?" he asked. Arya blinked at the flowers. Those from your $1,000,000 garden? Nope. Farmer's market. I didn't want the roses to steal your thunder, she smiled. What's in the bag? He held it up. Disaster lasagna. Ava helped. You brave, brave man. He stepped inside. Before we eat, he said, turning to her, I just want to say one thing. She looked up at him, waiting. I don't care how long it takes. I'm not going anywhere. Not unless you tell me to walk. She swallowed hard. I'm scared, Nathaniel. I am too. Then what are we doing? Something rare, he said. Something worth the fear. And just like that, with wildflowers on the counter and burnt lasagna on the stove, Arya felt the fear shrink. Just a little. Because maybe, just maybe, this storm was something they'd learned to dance in together.